Exactly 13 years ago today, a new name was introduced to the world through a brief social media post, one that would eventually change the landscape of global music forever. Park Jimin, a shy young man from Busan carrying a large backpack and a heart full of doubts, was officially announced as the final member of BTS. What seemed like a simple introduction at the time could never have predicted that the trembling footsteps he took across the damp floor of a small underground practice room would one day become golden footprints on the stages of the world's largest stadiums. Yet behind the dazzling spotlight and the millions of cheers that now accompany his every move, Jimin's journey began amid an atmosphere heavy with tears and despair. He arrived in Seoul armed with little more than courage and extraordinary contemporary dance skills, talents that initially became a challenge as he struggled to adapt to the sharp and powerful world of hip-hop choreography. In the cramped dormitory where he shared space with 6 unfamiliar young men, Jimin often woke up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling with an overwhelming fear that his name might be removed from the trainee roster. The very next day, the sacrifices Jimin made during those early years pushed the limits of ordinary human endurance. While the other members finished their training sessions and returned to the dorm to rest their exhausted bodies, Jimin remained alone in the dark practice room, accompanied only by the reflection of his own shadow in the fogged-up mirrors. He slept merely 2 hours a day, squeezing every drop of sweat from his body to catch up, allowing himself to be bruised and battered as he repeatedly fell while mastering unfamiliar movements. His greatest fear was not physical exhaustion, but the thought that he might become a burden to the dreams of the 6 young men he had already come to regard as family. Almost every week, Jimin's position as a prospective BTS member seemed to hang by a thread, repeatedly evaluated with a high possibility of elimination. Whenever the door to the evaluation room closed behind him, he would bite his lip to hold back tears, gathering the last remnants of his courage to beg for one more chance rather than being sent back to his hometown. Those dark and pressure-filled days gradually began to brighten as Jimin's sincerity touched the hearts of the other members, especially Kim Taehyung, who was born in the same year and became his greatest emotional support. Under Seoul's night sky, sitting in empty playgrounds, Jimin often poured out his tears and fears, confessing how desperately he wanted to survive and succeed alongside them. The unconditional support of his fellow members became the fuel that prevented him from giving up, transforming emotional pain into a powerful force ready to explode. When the day of his official introduction finally arrived, the joy overflowing from Jimin's heart was impossible to describe. It was a cheerful moment that dispelled every dark cloud that had hovered over him for months. His signature crescent-shaped smile, now beloved by millions around the world, was officially introduced to the public. For the first time as the face of BTS's contemporary dancer, that day became a declaration that every sleepless night, every extreme diet, and every doubt piercing his heart had finally been worth it. Their debut, however, was not welcomed with a red carpet, but with a new series of challenges just as steep and unforgiving. As a group from a small agency on the brink of financial collapse, Jimin and BTS faced the bitter reality of being underestimated, having their stage time cut on television programs, and enduring rejection after rejection. Yet Jimin's natural cheerfulness and role as the group's source of happiness became an oasis that kept their spirits alive. Amid the storm of criticism, Jimin grew not only as a dancer whose movements could hypnotize audiences, but also as a vocalist with a uniquely emotional voice, capable of touching the deepest corners of the human heart. His high, gentle, and emotionally rich vocal tone became the soul of many of BTS's most beloved ballads. Whenever he sang his solo parts, there was an unmistakable sincerity in his voice, as though he were sharing pieces of both, the pain and healing he had experienced himself. As time passed, Jimin's limitless dedication began to bear fruit as BTS steadily climbed toward unprecedented global success. The tears of anxiety from the past transformed into tears of gratitude and joy on the stages of prestigious award ceremonies where they received daesangs they once only dreamed of. Jimin was often seen bowing deeply on stage, pressing his forehead to the floor as a gesture of profound gratitude toward the fans who, in his own words, had saved his life. His journey was also marked by a relentless struggle against his own impossibly high expectations. A perfectionist by nature, Jimin would often blame himself and retreat backstage if he made even the slightest mistake while singing or dancing. This emotional burden frequently revealed the vulnerable side of a global superstar still battling the self-doubt that had haunted him since his trainee days. Yet despite the immense pressure that came with worldwide fame, Jimin never lost the warmth, kindness, and selflessness that define him. Within BTS, he became known as the group's healer, the member who would always be the first to run over and embrace someone who was crying or had fallen on stage. His presence served as the glue that united the group's diverse personalities, ensuring that no member ever felt alone during their exhausting journey. His playful moments off stage, whether teasing older members or displaying his goofy side during variety shows, proved that he had preserved the innocence of his heart. The world may see him as a global fashion icon and charismatic pop superstar, but to his fellow members, he remains the same. Jimin from 13 years ago, a young man who laughs so hard his eyes disappear, and who brings positive energy wherever he goes. The physical sacrifices never truly stopped, even after BTS reached the peak of global fame. Jimin often performed despite severe neck injuries and muscle pain, hiding his discomfort behind a radiant smile throughout entire concerts. Cameras occasionally captured moments when he required oxygen, support, or ice treatment immediately after performances, a heavy price he willingly paid out of love for his craft and his fans. The story of these 13 years is one of extraordinary transformation, a journey from a boy who once felt unworthy to one of the most influential figures in the world. Through solo songs such as Lie, the theatrical masterpiece, Serendipity, filled with warmth and love, and the powerful Set Me Free Pete 2, Jimin has openly shared the story of his growth and self-discovery. He has never been ashamed of the scars of his past, because they taught him how to love himself completely. When BTS entered a new chapter of their careers, including the temporary separation caused by mandatory military service, Jimin faced it with remarkable maturity. The sadness of leaving the stage and his fans was transformed into a promise that time would never weaken the bond they had built together. He entered military service with his head held high, carrying the same love he felt 13 years ago when he was first introduced to the world. Today, as fans look back on that original announcement, they celebrate not merely a date on the calendar, but the birth of hope itself. Social media is filled with video compilations showcasing Jimin's transformation from a soft-faced teenager with chubby cheeks into a graceful and composed adult whose presence radiates serenity. Every clip stands as silent testimony to a difficult journey that ultimately rewarded perseverance. The emotional connection Jimin has built with his fans remains one of the most beautiful phenomena in modern music history, transcending language and cultural barriers. He has always emphasized that he is nothing without the people who listen to his music, a humility that remains intact, despite his name being etched at the top of Billboard charts. For countless individuals around the world, his existence has become a source of strength, encouraging them to endure and overcome their own hardships. 13 years have passed, and every twist and turn along the way has polished Park Jimin into one of the brightest diamonds among the stars. The sacrifices of his youth, spent in silent practice rooms, have been repaid with the overwhelming love of millions across the globe. BTS would never have been the same without the tenderness, strength, and sincerity that Jimin brought from the very first day he entered their lives. History has recorded that the decision to introduce Jimin 13 years ago was one of the most significant choices ever made in the Korean entertainment industry. The story of a young man from Busan who courageously moved to the capital city will continue to be told for generations as a modern fairy tale of perseverance and determination. He stands as living proof that even the most impossible dreams can come true when pursued with unwavering dedication. Now, on the 13th anniversary of his introduction, the world bows its head in respect for every tear, every laugh, every hardship, and every sacrifice Jimin has made. His journey is far from over, and brighter chapters still await to be written alongside his 6 brothers in BTS. Today serves as an eternal reminder that 13 years ago, a miracle named Park Jimin officially began, and the world will always be grateful for his presence.